Okay, so have you ever heard that rumor about Halle Berry and Billy Bob Thornton? Like, did they really go there during that heavy scene in Monsters Ball?
You mean the one that's been making the rounds online forever?
Exactly. It's like this Hollywood rumor that just won't quit. So, get this. Our deep dive today comes from an article by this entertainment reporter, Ebony Boykin-Patterson. It just came out today, by the way, October 7th, 2024. We're going to unpack how one little rumor says so much about the way we see actors and how we see sex on screen, and where those two things kind of get blurry.
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting example of how we sometimes can't separate the actor from the character, especially when you're talking about, such a personal scene.
For real. Anyway, the article says Halle Berry was on Dax Shepard's Armchair Expert podcast, and she finally addressed this whole thing. She called it an urban legend and said it's been secretly maddening that people think it's true just because the scene felt real.
Wow.
And she even said, and I quote, "You can't just be a good actor, and you can't just make that chef look real."
It's kind of sad when you think about it that people would assume that about actors, especially given the kind of scene we're talking about. And you got to wonder how this whole thing has affected her over the years. I mean, to constantly deal with that assumption, it's got to do something to you.
Right. And this isn't exactly a new rumor. It's been floating around for years online, message boards and all that. Some people even claimed Barry admitted to it at some point, which, if you read the article, totally didn't happen.
It's incredible how these things can just grab hold and spread, especially when it's something, well, let's be honest, something juicy about a Hollywood scandal.
No kidding.
Mm.
The article even mentions Thornton was still getting asked about this myth as late as 2012.
Seriously?
A full 10 years after the movie. Like, can you imagine constantly having to deny rumors about your personal life, especially about something so, private?
It really makes you think about what actors go through, especially women in Hollywood,
Especially with what Barry says in this article. She says these types of rumors really seem to follow her more than other actors.
Right. And that's a big deal. You start to wonder if it would be different if it were different actors, different races. This whole thing makes you think about race and how it plays out in Hollywood, the whole representation issue.
That's a really good point. Like, there's this whole other layer here.
Exactly. This idea of Black women being overly sexualized in media, like this rumor, even if it's not on purpose, plays into that stereotype, and that's important to talk about.
Right. It becomes bigger than just this one rumor. So you know how Thornton was married to Angelina Jolie when they filmed Monsters Ball?
Oh, right. Right.
Barry even talks about that, kind of
What?
jokingly. Like, in the interview, she's like, come on, Jolie would never have been okay with that.
It's just crazy. The whole thing is already a stretch, and then you add that in.
For sure.
Yeah.
And get this wasn't even the only rumor Barry shut down in the interview. She also talked about the ones about Spike Lee, Eddie Murphy,
Yeah.
even one with that wrestler, Ric Flair. Right. You got to wonder, what does this say about how we see celebrities' personal lives? Like, especially women who are seen as sex symbols.
It's like their relationships are everyone's business, and it just keeps going and going.
It really makes you think, like, these rumors, even if they're totally made up, how do they mess with these actors' relationships, their careers, I mean, having your personal life blown up like that, constantly being judged, it can't be easy.
Yeah, it's strange, right? It's like we think we deserve these stories about celebrities, even if they're totally fake. It's easy to forget they have their own lives, you know what I mean?
We want to make these crazy stories, even if it means forgetting about the actual people.
And this whole thing, it really makes you think about acting, how powerful it can be. This rumor has been around so long because Barry and Thornton were just that good in Monsters Ball.
Totally.
It's
It says a lot about their acting that people couldn't separate it from real life.
right. Makes you think, if you watch that movie knowing this is all fake, does it change how you see it? Like, it makes us think about how we watch stuff, how easily we buy into these stories, we build around it.
It's kind of a compliment to them in a
Right.
way. But it also makes you think, how can we be smarter about this stuff we watch? How do we avoid these traps, this speculating, this misinformation, especially when it's about someone's personal life?
Right. It all comes down to thinking for ourselves, remembering to be critical and realizing there's always more to the story than what we see.
We love the gossip, the rumors, but at the end of the day, we got to remember, these are real people we're talking about.
100%. And it's a good reminder to think critically about all the information coming at us.
Well said. So if you want to hear more from Halle Berry herself, and trust me, she had a lot to say, check out that whole Armchair Expert interview. Really interesting stuff. And as always, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.